Welcome to Silberman Law Firm's Weekly Docket, episode 52, where we talk legal news and practical law. Today is January 9th, 2025. I'm Phil Silberman, owner of the firm and your host, and I'm also joined by my co-host, Austin Black, who works in our Dallas office. How are you doing today, Mr. Black?
I am doing great. I love snow, and I'm very happy that we're getting at least a little bit of it in Dallas. So,
isn't that crazy that North Texas is just getting hammered with snow right now?
Yeah, I mean, especially with how much snow we normally get, we're definitely getting hammered.
That's just almost, you've got Los Angeles on fire, and you've got 11 inches of snow in Dallas, Texas.
Yeah.
So, unreal. All right, what is on our docket today, Austin?
So, for our legal news section, we are first talking about X, or if you want to call it Twitter still, people still understand what that means. But if you want to sue X Corporation, the new terms of service that went into effect a couple months back require that lawsuit to now be filed in the district, in Tarrant County specifically, in North Texas. And a lot of people are pretty upset with that. We'll let you know exactly what their terms of service say there, how it affects you. If you decide you want to sue X, we'll make sure you know exactly how to do that. And then we will be talking about the status of the Trump sentencing for the hush money case. Last week, we talked about something a little bit different. Another one of his cases. He has so many cases. It's hard to keep track of. I understand. But we'll differentiate that and discuss exactly what's going on there. Then we'll move on to our legal question section. First legal question is going to be, who gets to name places like oceans, gulfs on a map, things like that? Who decides whether a little island no one really cares about is Dokdo or Takashima? We'll let you know. And then, do you have to file a BOI, which is a beneficial owner's interest report? There's a lot of confusion over that right now. If you own a small business, an entity, a corporation, or an LLC, do you have to file one of those at the moment? You used to have to. There's been some litigation that's caused some confusion. We'll clear that up. And then we actually have, as an apology for last week, not really having a rant and rave section, except for my commentary on people taking off their shoes and socks on planes. We have two mini rant and raves, which the first being airlines upcharging for overweight baggage. It's obnoxious. There are even some airlines doing things that I think are even more egregious. We'll talk a little bit about that. And then we'll be talking about 1099 informational returns that are due soon.
Okay. Sounds like a good show. I'm most excited to see who gets to name things on maps, right? That's what I'm anxiously awaiting.
I'm anxiously awaiting the day when you say, wow, that sounds like an absolutely terrible show in response to going through that.
We've had some where I haven't been so excited about it. Now, it is a legal show, so it's hard to make this thing somewhat interesting week in and week out. But all right, let's go ahead and kick it off with our legal news section. So the first thing we're talking about is if you want to sue X, and as Austin mentioned, formerly Twitter, all right, you now, they updated their terms of service. Anytime, if you don't know, anytime you use a website, there are some terms of service, or anytime you use a platform, there's terms of service. You consent to the terms of service. That is a binding contract once you start using the platform, right? So users now must sue in the Northern District of Texas. That's the federal. So if you have a federal case, you have to sue in the Northern District of Texas or in state court in Tarrant County. Now, Twitter or X is actually based on, they moved their headquarters from San Francisco to Bastrop. Did you know that, Austin?
I did know that.
Yeah. They're now Bastrop is in Central Texas. It's not in Northern Texas.
It's not close to Austin, yeah?
Very close to Austin.
Yeah.
And Twitter X decided, hey, the place we want to be sued is in Northern Texas. Now, this is called a forum selection clause. Can you explain to our listeners just real quick what a forum selection clause is, Austin, basically?
A forum selection clause is something either in a contract or another document that states if you agree to this contract, then you're also agreeing that any disputes that arise from or are related to the contract are going to be litigated in this particular forum. And so X's terms of service are a contract, and it states that If you're going to sue in federal court, it must be in the Northern District of Texas, or if it's in state court, it has to be in Tarrant County.
Yeah, the idea is generally big companies are given the ability to be able to efficiently handle lawsuits. So if you're a big company like X or ExxonMobil, or those are the only two companies I can think of that have X in it, but
or Exxon,
right, or Xerox, maybe, whatever.
Xerox.
Anyway, if you're a big company, whether you have X in your name or not, you get sued a lot, and you want to be able to handle them all in one place so you don't have lawyers jumping all over the world. Now, practically, that's not really what happens. Is you end up having to maintain and defend lawsuits all over the world anyway. But the real reason companies make a form selection clause is they want a favorable court, right?
Yeah.
And Tarrant County is very favorable to someone like Elon Musk, who has gravitated towards the more conservative Republican Party, because most of the people in Fort Worth in Tarrant County are conservative Republican people, right? It's mostly Republican, including the judges over there. That's really what's going on. What do you think about, there's this idea, some talk about this one judge over in the Northern District, Reed O'Connor. He owns 15,000. We don't know exact amount. They've estimated somewhere between $15,000 and $50,000 worth of Tesla stock. Yeah. And he's heard some Tesla cases. Now, Tesla's a different company, but they're both obviously controlled by Elon Musk. Do you think that jeopardizes Mr. O'Connor's impartiality, Austin, or do you think that's okay?
I don't think so. I think he'd be fine. Judge O'Connor is also a pretty nice guy. A very close friend of mine from law school clerked for him afterwards, and so I've met him at various events. I did not know he was invested in Tesla.
Okay, but so if he was a jerk, would it not be okay? Would he have to recuse himself if he were a jerk?
Yeah. If he was a jerk, he'd have to recuse himself.
Okay, good. All right. Yeah. So I don't think it's super material either. Judges are allowed to own stocks.
They should disclose these things, but yes, and they do.
$50,000 isn't super material. Maybe it's material for the judge, right? But it's certainly not enough to move Tesla, who has a gigantic market share, who's one of the 7 magnificent stocks. So doesn't have to recuse himself. If you're wondering, recusal is the kind of the legal term we use when a judge has to withdraw, or a prosecutor or a juror, from a case for grounds that person can no longer be impartial. But I think it's probably okay. But yeah, so if you got a lawsuit, you're ready to file against X or Twitter, you're probably going to be bringing it in the Northern District or Tarrant County. So
yeah, probably. If you try to bring it elsewhere, it's going to be removed.
Yay for Texas. More business for Texas. All right, let's move on to our next legal news section. Okay. So this is Trump appeals the sentencing for the hush money case. Do you remember this case, Austin?
I do, yeah. It was kept on the down low, shushed and hushed, but no, I do remember, yeah.
All right, give the listeners the breakdown. So remember Stormy Daniels and all that, real quick, just give the listeners a breakdown.
Why do we not have a lawyer named Stormy Daniels or something like that? Or like there was someone I knew whose last name, actual legal name, last name was Meadows, first name was Stormy. Stormy Meadows.
But isn't that like an indigenous peoples thing?
This girl was white as could be.
Okay, I thought it was like Eagle Hunter or something like that.
Yeah, it was not indigenous, Native American, nothing like that. But Trump was found guilty of 34 counts of falsifying business records in a New York state court. He can't pardon himself because that's not in federal court. If it was in federal court, he could pardon himself, but because it's in state court, only governors can do that, the governors of the various states. This falsifying business records case became a felony, which usually it's a misdemeanor. We're not really going to get into exactly how that happened. But that is the New York case. So
yeah. So good deal on that. 34 counts, felony conviction. He lost, right? He lost, but he's not a felon yet, because you're not a felon until you officially get sentenced. So
I'm sure everyone calling him a felon will stop tomorrow then. Once they hear this podcast. Yeah.
So after the election, this judge up in New York, Judge Juan Merchan, I think that's how you pronounce his name. He wants to sentence, that's a pretty cool name actually, but he wants to sentence Trump, okay, on January 10th. Today's the 9th. All right. He wants to sentence Trump tomorrow. Right. Yeah. And Trump's the president-elect. You've got a lot of constitutional issues here. does a state judiciary have that kind of power to sentence a president-elect? What do you think, Austin? Just yes or no?
I think so.
Okay. Austin says yes.
I think
Well,
they do.
the judge obviously agrees with you. So the judge has his quote here. What's the judge say? Do you have the quote?
Judge said that a sentence of an unconditional discharge appears to be the most viable solution to ensure finality and allow defendant to pursue his appellate options.
Yeah, he judge wants to sentence him. The judge wants his pound of flesh, right? He says, look, the jury convicted him. We don't want the jurors to feel like there's no rule of law. We don't want the people to feel like there's no rule of law. There should at least be a sentence. Not like everybody don't go crazy. I'm not going to try to put them in jail. I'm not going to put them on probation. Just let me have my power trip and bring them in my court and sentence the president-elect to an unconditional discharge.
Unconditional discharge just means, okay, you're convicted, but we're not going to do anything about it.
Yeah. Judge Juan Machon wants to be the guy in the history books that sentences a president that as a felon. That's what this guy wants. Let's stop blowing smoke up each other's skirts or whatever that term is. Okay. Mm-hmm. Anyway, that's what he wants to do. Trump doesn't like it. Trump's lawyer the whole time. This is an illegitimate political attack. Nothing but a rigged charade. That's been Trump's position the whole time. Trump did appeal. Trump's lawyers did appeal it, to the state appellate court of New York. Yeah. All right. The appellate court of New York, who's probably not conservative, no surprise, said
probably not.
Yeah. Said, no, we think Juan Merchan can sentence you, shove it or whatever. Yeah. Go pound sand. Trump has appealed to the New York Supreme Court. And as of Wednesday morning, he's filed an appeal to the U.S. Supreme Court asking for the U.S. Supreme Court to stop the sentencing that's supposed to take place tomorrow.
And that's not even proper procedurally.
Does it matter anymore?
I mean, probably not to Trump. I don't even think you could do that. And isn't it like on record that he was like on the phone with Alito before?
Yes, he talked to Alito. The Supreme Court's going to enter. There's in fairness to our system, there's a whole lot of, we're just in a whole lot of unprecedented territory here, right? Sure. And Trump's argument, we've got a quote. Go ahead and read that quote. Trump's lawyers wrote, starting with forcing president. So
it says, forcing President Trump to prepare for a criminal sentencing in a felony case while he is preparing to lead the free world as president of the United States in less than 2 weeks imposes an intolerable, unconstitutional burden on him that undermines these vital national interests.
Look, he's busy. The guy's busy. He's busy renaming bodies of water, okay?
I wish he was busy renaming bodies of water. That's what I wished he was busy doing. Instead, he's busy continuing to talk about us taking Canada and Greenland and Panama.
I don't get me down that kind of thing. Panama is vital to our national security. The Canadians would be better off as a 51st state, okay? And so would Greenland. So
maybe, but you can't say that.
Can't say it, and I certainly don't want to do anything by force. Like I'm not sending the military.
Yes, and they asked him if he would rule out using force. No,
I don't want to take over Greenland by force. I really don't. I think that's a bad look. All right, we may be really editing that commentary out.
No. I think it's important to state exactly what Trump is spending his time on. If we can get him on something else, I would prefer that. So that's why I want this to move forward.
Okay, we'll see what happens. Okay, I wonder if the U.S. Supreme Court doesn't stop it. I wonder if he's going to show up for sentencing.
I'm sure he will not.
I think it'd be pretty cool if he does not show up. And then what is Juan Merchan going to do then?
He's going to live in contempt.
Hold him in contempt. Put out a warrant for him.
Is he going to put out a warrant for him?
Try to get him. They're going to bring him out of the White House.
Yeah,
it's just crazy. It's just crazy.
Funny. Yeah, we'll see.
All right, we got to move on to legal questions, okay? And this is a segue because we had to answer this. I think I did not know, okay? When Trump was messing around, I guess maybe he wasn't messing around. Yeah, he was up there talking. He does these 2 or 3 hour news conferences, right? Or whatever.
I do know. I really wish he would stop because he does not have a script.
No, he has a script. He has a script. The aides, somebody like you, okay, some very smart young gentleman is writing a script for him. He stays on it for 10 minutes. Right.
Yes.
He was supposed to talk about some basic economic stuff in that press conference.
Yeah.
And he like abandoned it after 10 minutes. And then by the end of it, he's renaming the Gulf of Mexico to the Gulf of America.
Oh, such a beautiful name. Don't you love that? It just sounds so nice.
But it's my 15-year-old kid who's like very easily influenced. Now everything is beautiful. His dad, that's a beautiful car. His dad, that engine made a beautiful sound. It's just out of control. So look, I don't know if you knew. I thought it would be arbitrary. I did not know the answer. Who officially gets to name places? Like if it's within your own country, I think you squarely have dominion over that. The United States actually has a national government bureaucracy or body for that kind of thing, but we're talking about internationally.
Yeah.
So you've got an ocean, you've got a Gulf that's adjacent to 2 sovereign powers. What is the authority on naming? Because Trump was doing the press conference and he said, "Oh, it's going to be Gulf of America, big beautiful name." Why stop there? There's Gulf of California. We don't like California. You call it something
I think California might like California. I don't know.
Yeah, but the conservatives are in power. Okay, so now it's going to be Gulf of the USA or something like that.
Okay. Sure.
Or the Caribbean. Why not stop at the Caribbean? All right, but look, seriously, how does this work?
Countries do differ on names, right? We have in our show notes that we call the Rio Grande River the river between Texas and Mexico, and Mexicans call it Rio Bravo. I mentioned before the show there's a tiny island that's been contested between Korea and Japan, and also North Korea, but North Korea doesn't really do anything about it. They just guess it's also ours because North Korea likes to do that. But both South Korea and Japan have claimed this little island for forever. And Koreans are really up in arms about it. But Koreans call it Dokdo and Japanese call it Takashima. And it just, depending on who makes the map, it's named one of those 2 things.
Yeah. They have this international organization. Mexico and the United States are both members of it. It's called the International Hydrographic Organization. It's not binding. Okay.
This is different than the International Hydrophobic Organization, which is just everyone who's very scared of water.
Look, and to your point, over in Asia, first of all, I like Takashima better. It just has a better ring to it. The Chinese named it the South China Sea.
They did.
And by that logic, and this is not my original thought, I think it was like Hillary Clinton who mentioned this.
Yeah.
Like by that logic, when we won World War II, we could have just named like the Pacific Ocean or something, the U.S. Sea of the United States or Sea of America or something, right?
Yeah.
So
no, it's true. Now, the Dokdo Takashima thing is actually Japanese people don't care about it so much, but Korean people care about it a lot. The kids that I taught, like 8 to 15 or something, were really up in arms about it because obviously their parents were passionate about it.
All right, this is not new stuff. There's no really hard and fast rule here.
Yeah.
We did a little research in 2012. Okay, a member of the Mississippi legislature, the state of Mississippi, just a tiny. Correct me if I'm wrong, but there's a tiny little piece of Mississippi that touches the Gulf. So
maybe
Biloxi, Mississippi, and this member of the legislature proposed a bill to rename in 2012 portions of the Gulf of Mexico to Gulf of America. So not unprecedented. No real hard and fast rule. I do have a friend, Austin, that he refuses to acknowledge daylight savings time. So his clock, he just has his own set of clocks. And he lives with when you have so much money and you just don't need, and you don't really have a regular job and you don't need to answer to anybody and you don't really have appointments and you live in a rural area, you can do that, right?
Yeah.
He just has his own set of clocks.
Yeah.
And he does it about. You can have your own set of maps. Trump can just, in the Oval Office, he can just scribble out with a Sharpie what he wants to call things if he wants. So
I'm sure he would like to do that.
That's how we do it. All right.
Yeah.
Next legal question.
Okay.
Do I have to file a BOI, beneficial owner's interest report?
When this requirement was implemented, we did discuss this, but FinCEN, which is the division of the U.S. Treasury, started to require businesses to file reports that disclose ownership and controlling interests. Some people who like to be private did not like this, but anyways, usually these forms are due by January 1st, 2025.
It was part of a corporate transparency act. So there was a law passed that empowered FinCEN Department of, which is a section or department of the U.S. Treasury.
Yeah.
And they did all this BOI stuff.
Executive branch. Yeah. So this is similar sort of thing to how they tried to ban non-competes. This was obviously not FinCEN that did that, but another executive agency. So, yeah.
Okay. They were all going to be due by January 1st, 2025. Okay. Which is already passed. Small business owners are still confused. We're still getting questions about this. We anticipated when this story first broke that there would be constitutional challenges. There was a lawsuit. Okay. And we're just going to skip to the end here. The latest order, Fifth Circuit, very conservative circuit, Court of Appeals, reinstated a lower court's order, an injunction saying, okay, FinCEN, you cannot enforce BOI reporting. All right. So as of right now, it is, if you're a small business owner, you are not required to do any BOI reporting. So don't believe all these companies and these websites and these emails you're getting like, hey, do your BOI report. It's required, not required right now.
Correct. So if you don't do it, you will be okay. Yes.
I love it. So now, and if you go to FinCEN's website, there's an alert that says, okay, we can't enforce it, but feel free to do it voluntarily.
Yeah, if you have fun with that, go do it.
Good luck with that, FinCEN. I hope that goes well for you. I love it. I love it when government agencies get the shaft. I just love it. All right. Yeah. That brings us to my favorite sharp part of the show. That's our rant and rave section, okay? We're talking about two real quick ones. Airlines upcharging for overweight baggage. And so my wife and I and my family, we go on a trip. We got the kids with us. My wife does all the packing for the kids. She sends us with 2 of these large checked bags on United Airlines. My wife has an amazing ability for densely packing suitcases, right? Okay. So the guy gets this thing up on the scale and it's 53 pounds. If there's a 50-pound limit, it's $40 to check the whole bag. Yeah. But we're 3 pounds over. So the guy looks at me and he's okay, that's going to be $100. And I'm like, wait a minute, it's 50-pound limit. I can check a whole nother suitcase for $40, or I pay $100 for being 3 pounds over. And he's like, do you have another suitcase? And I'm like, are you asking me if I brought another empty suitcase to the airport so that I can put some of this stuff in and you can charge me $40? Is that what you're asking me?
So I actually did that though. Like when I went to Japan, I have a small suitcase that can, and then a larger suitcase. And I packed all of my clothes and everything I was bringing in the smaller suitcase and put it in the larger one, like Russian nesting dolls. Yeah. And when I was getting stuff to bring back, I just separated the two and put all the stuff I was bringing back in my larger suitcase. So I would make sure that I was good on the weight limits and stuff. And
you are clearly a very sophisticated, forward-thinking traveler. Okay, abandon the law firm podcast, start a travel tip podcast. Okay, so anyway, I almost flipped out. All right, flipped out. But we had 2 bags, and my son was able to very skillfully balance the bags out, and I did not have to pay $100. The rant of this is that is a really deceptive business practice. Okay. I'm all for capitalism when things are fairly disclosed, but there needs to be like some sort of FAA rule against this. That's what I'm saying. So
I agree.
All right. Next little mini rant and rave. And this is really more of a public message. Again, if you're we have a lot of small business owners that listen to the show. So your 1099 informational returns are due soon. All right. And there's today, as it stands now, all right, there are 1099 NECs and there's 1099 miscellaneous. All right, I'm talking. There 1099 NEC is non-employee compensation. That's the most common one, where if you're a business and you have like independent contractors that you pay over $600, you have to file this 1099 NEC. Almost all businesses have those. And you only get until January 31st to file those. So it's the 9th now. So it's running out. Because it's crazy, because you barely have time you're like rushing to close your books. You're rushing to get your bank accounts reconciled. And then you're in the middle of, you're trying to have a decent New Year's, right? And have a little time off before you go back to work. And you're just slammed with 1099 reporting requirements that are due. And now 1099 miscellaneous, okay, that's the less common one now. That 1099 miscellaneous, you have much more time. If you're e-filing, those aren't due until March 31st.
Yep.
But it's really crazy. We used to have until like at least the end of February on many of these forms, but then the IRS decided that's not enough time for them to get informational returns from us so that they can better catch people cheating on their taxes. Yeah. So your W-2s also, by the way, your W-2s are also, those are the ones that go out. Those are your informational returns that go out to your employees. So if you're an employee, you get a W-2. Those are due January 31st as well. Those don't get filed with the IRS. Those get filed with the SSA, the Social Security Administration. And also, if you need to get help from the IRS, good luck with that, because they're not, despite all the additional money and those 80,000 agents out there, if they ever got hired, you can't get anybody on the phone, because I guess they're working from home and not picking up the phone. So
yeah,
now I'm really mad now.
So we don't know anyone who does that though.
No, work from home and not pick up the phone, or
no, anyone who does that.
Okay, we all work from home, but we do pick up the phone. Okay?
Some of us pick up the phone.
Oh my goodness! All right, now that I'm fired up, that brings our show to a close. I've been your host, Phil Silberman. Austin Black has been my co-host. Like us, follow us, review us wherever you get your podcast. As a reminder, nothing in the show is to be considered legal advice, and this has all been for entertainment purposes only. If you have a legal question, email us at info@silblawfirm.com. That's info@silblawfirm.com. And tell us you want it publicly answered in the podcast. Everybody, thanks for listening, and have a great rest of your day and weekend.
Thanks so much. Bye.